بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، فعلمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا كريم. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I pray you're all keeping well and have all had a fantastic week. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and protect you all and use you for khair. Allahumma ameen. So let's see who's here. So we have Zulkifl, Arifin, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. We have Tas, we have Malaika, we have Khalid, we have Layla, we have Saira, we have Maria. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh jami'an. I'll start off with a small reminder. And this is with regards to, does more always equal the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? So sometimes you'll see someone, they have a fancy car, they have a big house, they have this, high positioned, powerful job. And you think to yourself, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must really love this person. Right? That's what your nafs tells you. Because we always assume that more is better. But the reality is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in Surah At-Tawbah, فَلَا تُعْجِبَكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ وَأَوْلَادُهُمْ إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُعَذِّبَهُمْ بِهَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَتَزْهَقَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah At-Tawbah, do not be impressed by their wealth and children, for surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only using them to punish them, meaning using the wealth and children to punish that individual and then to destroy them in the hereafter while they are disbelieving. And subhanAllah, this is such a scary reality that when you look at this concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving people more to increase their punishment, right? So that they have more responsibility, so that they have more accountability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a very scary concept. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and allow that which He has blessed us with to be a proof for us and not a proof against us. Allahumma ameen. So I just wanted to share this reminder that don't naturally assume that just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a person more of worldly possessions, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them more, right? But the only clear sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives deen to a person, right? Gives them the ability to fulfill their personal ibadat, gives them the ability to use their voice for the sake of good, gives them the ability to use their money in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gives them the understanding of the deen, gives them the ability to teach the deen and to teach the Qur'an, right? These are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from His beloved. Tayyib, we've had some more people join us. Let's catch up, inshallah. We have Abdurrahman Mazar, we have Safiya, we have Aqila, we have Maya, we have Kima, we have Safiya. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of you. Welcome. Tayyib, my dear brothers and sisters, I know I had told you that we would be having a guest speaker for this week's class, but unfortunately he got held up and he said he was going to be late. So I said, you know what, let us reschedule, inshallah, for a later class. So that means we will be continuing with our scheduled class, which is going to be on cryptocurrency, And I actually wanted to see something. Let's see if I can do something with all of you, inshallah. It's a little bit slow, but it might work, inshallah. Okay, I think this might work, inshallah. Right. So I'll save this for a little bit later. I'm really glad that I can show it to all of you, inshallah. Okay, so today's session is on cryptocurrency. It is a buzzword, everyone's talking about it, and everyone's saying invest. Alhamdulillah. Everyone's saying invest, invest, invest. But what exactly is cryptocurrency? So cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency secured by cryptography and based on a network that is distributed across a large number of computers. Khalid is saying stay away. We'll discuss cryptocurrency from an investment perspective in a bit. Yahdikum Allah wa yuslihu balakum. We'll discuss cryptocurrency from an investment perspective in a little bit. But basically, what we want to talk about is what exactly is cryptocurrency. So think about cryptocurrency in simplified form as digital money, right? So the money that we currently use, the currency that we have, the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, they are printed money, right? By governments through the Federal Reserve System, through central banks. That's how the money gets to us. But cryptocurrency, there is no physical form of it. It is a digital currency. And rather than being backed by a government, it is created electronically and digitally through cryptography, right? Through blockchain. And that's how it is monitored and measured. So just think of it as a digital currency. Okay. So now, what is the ruling on cryptocurrency? We want to start off with this reminder that the principle of original permissibility means that freedom is the normative position of the Sharia with regards to food, animals on land and in the sea, customary matters, commercial transactions and contracts, and other matters. Basically, with matters of the dunya, things are halal until proven haram. So we do not need to prove that cryptocurrency is halal. Someone needs to come and say and prove that cryptocurrency is haram. Come and say is that cryptocurrency is haram, and then they need to provide evidence, So the burden of proof is not on proving it halal. The burden of proof is on proving it haram. The burden of proof is on proving it haram. So as of, I would say, 2022, that's where I last did my research on this. There were 3 different Fatawa on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the most popular cryptocurrency. It is the most traded cryptocurrency. And I actually want to do an exercise with you. Without Googling and without looking it up online, can you people that are in the class name other cryptocurrencies? Do you know the names of any other cryptocurrencies? Share it in the chat box, please. Okay, so we have Ether, Ethereum, Dogecoin, yes, Bitcoin, Stash, ETH, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Halal Coin. Please tell me you didn't buy into Halal Coin. Please tell me you didn't buy into Halal Coin. Oh man, there was actually a coin called Habibi Coin, and it was so scandalous. It was so scandalous. Like the individual, he ended up raising a few $1 million from Muslims that were like, yeah, let's go invest in cryptocurrency. We're gonna make a killing. And subhanallah, eventually it turned out to be like a Ponzi scheme, and he ended up going to jail. Allahu alam what happened to him. I mean, I think his sentence must be coming to an end soon. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay, so just so that you get an idea of other cryptocurrencies, what I want to share with you, inshallah ta'ala, is other cryptocurrencies by market capitalization. Okay, so I'll share this link with you. I'll share this link with you in the chat box. But currently, on average, you have $1.2 trillion worth of Bitcoin that is traded. Then you have 391 billion of Ethereum. And then you have Tether. And Tether is actually what they call a stable coin. So it's basically pegged to the US dollar. If the US dollar goes up, it goes up. If the US dollar goes down, it goes down. It goes down. That's 110 billion. Then you have the Binance coin, which is 87 billion. Solana, which is 61 billion. USDC is another stable coin that is pegged to the US dollar, 33 billion. XRP, 28 billion. Dogecoin, as some of you mentioned, 20 billion. Toncoin, I've actually never even heard of this until today. So that's something I'm going to study later on. 18 billion. And then you have Cardano, which is going at $16 billion. So this is the market cap as to how much they are actually trading, buying and selling in its totality, right? So that is by market cap, the different cryptocurrencies. So right now, when we speak about the Fatawa, right? When we speak about the Fatawa, we're speaking just about Bitcoin. We're speaking just about Bitcoin. And if you want to do a study of the different cryptocurrencies, I've shared it in the chat box by market cap. You can look at the other cryptocurrencies. So as of 2022, we had 3 Fatawa with regard to Bitcoin. The first of them is that it is not permissible to own it or to trade it. This was by Mufti of Egypt, and this was by Mufti Taqi Osmani, the Mufti of Turkey, and others as well. And then you had number 2, it is permissible to deal with within the boundaries of the Sharia, within the boundaries of the Sharia. And this was by Amja, the Association of Muslim Jurists in America, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Ad-Dadu, the Islamic Economics Forum, the Fiqh Council of North America, which is ISNA's Fiqh Council, amongst others as well. And then, to that list, I think people that you should become familiar with are Sheikh Joe Bradford and Mufti Faraz Adam. Right, I'll type their names in the chat box as well. These are people that you should familiarize yourselves with. If you guys are on social media, particularly if you use YouTube, Sheikh Joe Bradford has a channel there. Mufti Faraz Adam is very, very active on LinkedIn. You can follow him over there. Sheikh Joe Bradford is also has his own website, and you can read some of his stuff there. So these 2 would be part of category number 2. And then category number 3 is what they call tawaqquf, unable to issue a fatwa about it. So they basically said that we're not going to issue a ruling up and until we learn more about it. So these are the 3 fatwa that are out there. Number 1, it is not permissible. Number 2, it is permissible, but within the boundaries of the Sharia. And then number 3, tawaqquf, which is unable to issue a fatwa on it. And this was the famous website, Islam Q&A. Islam Q&A. So now, those scholars that said Bitcoin is haram, so category number 1, these are the reasons that they said. Number 1, it can easily be used for illegal activities, money laundering, tax evasion, crime, so on and so forth. Number 2, it is speculative, amounting to gambling, right? Meaning that there's no logical process or verifiable process as to why these cryptocurrencies are going up and down. Number 3, it is not a real currency. And what they mean by not a real currency is that it is not widely used. Number 4, it has no intrinsic value. It has no value within of itself. And then number 5, it is not controlled by a legitimate central authority. It is not controlled by a legitimate central authority. So these are the reasons why they say it's haram. So now, if you go back to our principle that matters of the dunya are halal until proven haram, you need something very explicit to counter this principle. You need something very explicit to counter it. And Safiya, you've made a very, very good point. You've made a very, very good point. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's go through these point by point. It can easily be used for illegal activities. So can cash. And as far as I know, no person has said using cash is impermissible based on it. Number two, it is speculative, amounting to gambling. And I think this is something that eventually we need to wrap our heads around. We are so used to pricing everything in dollars that when you relate it to dollars, yes, it may seem like it is speculative and gambling. But on the flip side, it's also because the dollar is losing its value due to inflation, right? And due to excessive printing and due to quantitative easing, right? All of that is making Bitcoin go up and down depending on, what the inflation rates are looking like, what the quantitative easing is looking like, and so on and so forth. Number three, it is not a real currency. And this is too vague. What does that actually mean, that it's not a real currency, right? And we'll talk about this in the last one. But just because someone may have not heard of it doesn't make it's not a real currency, right? Like, how many of us know what the currency in Guatemala is? How many of us know what the currency in El Salvador is? And just for your knowledge, Bitcoin is actually legal tender in El Salvador now. Bitcoin is legal tender in El Salvador right now. So just because we're not familiar with it, it doesn't mean that it's not a real currency. Number four, it has no intrinsic value. Neither does the dollar. Which brings us to the last point. It is not controlled by a legitimate central authority, meaning that it is not backed by a government. And Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad, rahimahumullah, they actually had a very famous statement. And this, I only mentioned them because they have explicit statements. Other Imams like Imam Shafi'i and Imam Abu Hanifa, it is possible they've made statements, but they're not direct. And what Imam Ahmad and Imam Malik rahimahumullah have stated is that whatever the people consider a currency and as a means of exchange and a mediums of exchange and as a counter value, then that is what a currency actually is. There's no need for it to be backed by a khilafah or by a khalifa or anything like that. Like the Muslims hadn't created their own currency up and until the Umayyad Khilafah, right? Prior to that, they were just using gold and silver by particular weights and measurements. And in fact, depending on where you went, the dinar weighed something else and the dirham weighed something else, and there was no set value for it. So the fact that it's not controlled by a legitimate central authority, we didn't see that during the time of the Prophet ﷺ or by the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, right? So Elena, that's a very fair point. But I mean, I don't like to accuse people of ignorance. Generally, when people issue fatwa, that means they've issued a fatwa after doing their research and due diligence, right? This is a part of having husn al-dhan of our scholars, that we would assume that they've done their research and looked into these matters with diligence before they've issued a fatwa. So we wouldn't, accuse them of being ignorant. Wallahu ta'ala. So this is those that said it was haram. Now, those that said it was halal, they say that the principle of original permissibility is ibaha, right? So we don't need to prove that it's halal. You need to prove that it's haram. Number two, there's nothing in the Sharia, Qur'an, or Sunnah that suggests money has to be issued by a central authority. Number three, Bitcoin is acceptable as a currency for real sale transactions in many shops around the world. So just because you aren't familiar with it, it doesn't mean that it's not already being used. And number four, fiat money is exposed to all issues raised against Bitcoin, with the exception of the official recognition, So everything that we said that we were critical about Bitcoin, about it also applies to fiat currency as well. Now, with regards to recommendations, scholars have stated that all the rulings of riba will apply to Bitcoin as they do to fiat currency. Meaning that if you lend someone one Bitcoin, you can only receive one Bitcoin back. It can't be more, it can't be less. Exchanging bitcoins for other cryptocurrencies or for fiat money must be done as spot trade, right? It has to be hand in hand. There can be no delay, or it becomes riba nasiya, It is permissible to mine bitcoins. So this is something fascinating, but how are bitcoins actually created? So if you remember the documentary that you viewed, that when the United States of America wants to print more money, they basically just approach the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve will then print money. And what does this do? This creates inflation. As money floods the market, prices will go up and people will be able to pay more. Whereas when it comes to Bitcoin, there was an initial supply that was released, and then thereafter, people have to do mathematical equations, basically do very difficult math questions and solve them. And then as a reward, they are rewarded with small fractions of Bitcoin. They're rewarded with small fractions of Bitcoin. Now, why this is important to know is that there are only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence. There will never be more than that. And the reason why that's important to know is that because when you compare Bitcoin to a currency that is inflationary, the value of Bitcoin will only go up over long periods of time in relation to a currency that is inflationary, just due to the fact that Bitcoin is a scarce commodity. It is a scarce commodity. And I'll show this to you once we talk about investing in cryptocurrency. Number 4, Zakat is due on Bitcoin investments. So whether you're holding it or investing in it or trading in it, then just like you would pay Zakat on cash, you would pay Zakat on your Bitcoin investments as well. You would pay Zakat on your Bitcoin investments as well. And then last but not least, permissibility does not mean that Bitcoin investment is a good one. The market is very volatile, and the risk of losing one's investment is always there. And this is where I want to show you something, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, what you have in front of you is from Yahoo Finance. I'm using the Canadian version, but this is still in US dollars. And this shows you the value of Bitcoin over time in US dollars. So for example, let's see how far this will go back. On September 21st, 2014, the value of one Bitcoin was $441. The value of one Bitcoin was $441. This was on September 21st, 2014. September 21st, 2014. That is what the Yahoo Finances kept a record of. Now, let's go to the highest price we see Bitcoin achieve. The highest price Bitcoin achieved was $71,727 and $688. Or yes. So now if we take this amount, 71,727.688. Let's do that again. 71727.688. And we go back to what it was on September 21st. We divide this by, let's just say, actually we'll use the close of that day, right? So it closed on that day at 377.181. Basically, if you bought one Bitcoin on September 21st at the close in 2014, divide your money by 190 times. Okay, so basically, if you had $1,000 in Bitcoin that day, when Bitcoin reached its peak, you would have had $190,000. You would have had $190,000. So this shows you just in a period of approximately 10 years what has happened. But what I also want to show you is the point that I was mentioning in the last point of the slide. Bitcoin is very, very turbulent. So you'll see that in 2018, it went all the way up to about 20,000, as you can see. So it reached 20,089. And then 1 year later, in 2019, you're back to 3,000. Okay. Late 2019, it goes up to 11,000. 2020 happens, which is the pandemic, and we go back to 4,000. And then from 4,000, it jumped all the way to 61,000, right? In the span of a year. So March 15th, 2020, you're looking at about 4,000. April 4th, 2021, you're looking at about 61,000, right? In a span of 1 year, multiplied by 15 times. And then it goes all the way down. July 11th, 2021, it halves basically and goes to 31,000. And then from July 2021 to November 2021, it goes up to 68,000. So November 2021, 68,000. We get all the way till December 18th, 2022, and you're down to 16,000. And then let's jump to the future. On March of 2024, we're back at 71,000. We're back at 71,000. So this shows you how volatile Bitcoin is, but it also shows you a lot of other things as well. Number one, with risky assets, you can make money if you have the patience and the fortitude and the threshold to hold on to them, right? So these sort of assets, you will not invest large amounts of money in, but I would say if you do decide to invest in Bitcoin, up to a maximum of 5% of your portfolio. The last session that inshallah I will be teaching is on investing and what Sharia compliant investing looks like. And as you're holding a portfolio, your portfolio being, you'll have stocks in there, you'll have ETFs in there, you'll have some precious metal exposure in there. If you choose to have some Bitcoin exposure, up to a maximum of 5%, up to a maximum of 5%. And this is something that you would hold for a long-term position and will not be a short-term position. Because we've seen that how over a period of 10 years, all tawfiq is from Allah, and the fluctuation, as they say, past performance is not an indicator of what the future is, but there is potential for money to be made. There's definitely potential for money to be made. So now let's get back to the slides. Oh man, a lot of you have been commenting. Okay, Taib. I'll get to the comments in a second, inshallah. Okay, so now we've just been speaking about Bitcoin, but what about other cryptocurrencies? What about other cryptocurrencies? Right? So in order for other cryptocurrencies to remain halal, right? We said the normative position is that they are halal, but in order for them to remain halal, they have to have a store of value. So meaning people can use it to buy and sell. So people value things in it. Number two, it is a medium of exchange. It is a medium of exchange. So not only do people tell the price in those things, but you will also use them to buy and sell within of themselves. You'll also use them to buy and sell within of themselves. Number three, it is deflationary. It is deflationary, meaning that it will not lose value over time. So in an ideal situation, the US dollar should not be losing its purchasing power, right? So in 1960, how much was a house? How much were groceries? How much was fuel for your car? They were much, much cheaper. And as time goes on, housing is going to become more expensive, fuel is going to become more expensive, food is going to become more expensive. This is not just due to the printing of the money, but it's also just due to the fact that the way the US dollar is created, it is inflationary, right? It loses its purchasing power. Whereas Bitcoin, as I mentioned, because there are only 21 million that will ever exist, it is deflationary in nature. It is a scarce commodity, whereas fiat currency is not a scarce commodity. Now, how about Ethereum? Ethereum is very different than Bitcoin in the sense that Ethereum actually has a burn rate. So every couple of months, as Ethereum reaches a new threshold, it basically burns itself and destroys some of itself so that it does not stay inflationary. So it doesn't become inflationary. So that it doesn't lose its purchasing power. That's the best that I can explain it. So when we look at cryptocurrencies, there needs to be a deflationary mechanism. Either there's only a limited number of them, or there's a burn rate or burn ratio that is in place that keeps it like that. Number 4 is the tokenomics. And this is a word that you will hear a lot of. And I think it's important that you guys read up about it. So I'm sharing a link in the chat box that you can look up. And I'll just quickly share with you tokenomics at a glance. So blockchain projects design tokenomics rules around their tokens to encourage or discourage various user actions. This is similar to how a central bank prints money and implements monetary policies to encourage and discourage spending, lending, saving, and the movement of money. Note that the word token here refers to both coins and tokens. You can learn the difference between the two over here on that link. Unlike fiat currencies, the rules of tokenomics are implemented through code and are transparent, predictable, and very difficult to change. So if you look at Bitcoin, for example, the total supply of Bitcoin is pre-programmed to be 21 million. You can't change that code, right? There will only be 21 million. The way Bitcoins are created and entered into circulation is by mining. Miners are given some Bitcoins as a reward when a block is mined every 10 minutes or so. So basically, what are the policies that are in place with regards to the cryptocurrencies themselves? That is what tokenomics in essence is. That is what tokenomics in essence is. And as you study cryptocurrency, it's very important to understand that. So the tokenomics of the cryptocurrency itself have to be halal, and they can't be like some Ponzi-like scheme where, I think I've shared this example before, but let's use some students here. So Khalid's my friend, and I tell Khalid, yo, I have this amazing idea. Let's start a cryptocurrency together. And I'll be the president, you'll be the vice president. And the way this is going to work is I'll start it up, and then I'm going to hire you. And every sale that you make, you'll get to keep, 99.9% of the profit, and I'll get 0.1%. And then likewise, you're going to recruit some more people. And when you recruit some more people, you will get to keep, 99.9% of they'll get to keep 99.9% of the profit, and you'll get to keep 1% of it. And that 1% will further trickle back to me. And this is what we call a Ponzi scheme. This is what we call a Ponzi scheme. So it shouldn't be something like that, right? It shouldn't be for the benefit of just one individual or a few individuals, but rather it should be for the benefit of everyone using it. And then last but not least, it should have a real case use, meaning people are using it to buy and sell, or people are using it for technology, right? So Bitcoin is mainly used to buy and sell. And then Ethereum is used for the sake of building smart contracts. That is its main function. So you can program it to interact in a certain way, and you can place smart contracts through them. And this is, the wave of the future, basically. So that's with regards to other cryptocurrencies. Now, let me answer your questions on cryptocurrencies, and then inshallah, I'll briefly speak about credit cards. And actually, we'll briefly speak about credit cards, and then we can take it from there, inshallah. Okay. So we have Abdurrahman Mazhar. Bro, imagine buying one and forgetting about it. It's happened to so many people. It's not that they forgot. Some people even lost the keys to their Bitcoins, right? Like you need a very strong password to access your Bitcoin from back in the day because you didn't have too many exchanges. So people offloaded them and they forgot the keys, right? So much of it is lost. And this is another reason. Again, I'm not giving financial advice, but just what experience has showed us that because there's only a restricted, there's a very limited number of Bitcoin available, which is 21 million, and there's an assumption something like 4 to 6 million Bitcoin are lost, that we will no longer have access to them. So circulation will dictate that we only have about 15 million, which means that in relation to US dollars, it has nowhere to go but up. Then Alina is saying, you still would not have any use of it if you forgot about it. That is correct. Khalid is saying, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I once owned half a Bitcoin around 2013, lost the digital wallet 10 years ago. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replace it with you for better and reward you for the patience that you have showed in your loss. Why is the market so turbulent? So a lot of it is in relation to the US dollar, right? So whatever happens to the US dollar impacts Bitcoin. So as interest rates go up, Bitcoin will go down. But then as money gets printed and the value of the US dollar goes down, then Bitcoin goes up. Cyrus saying it's an anxiety provoking slide. It could, I mean, think of it as a roller coaster, right? There's certain parts of a roller coaster that you will enjoy, and there's certain parts of the roller coaster that will be very anxiety provoking and inducing, right? Tass is saying, Inshallah, my kids can buy the Lambos. Inshallah, you can buy the Lambos as well. Inshallah, you can buy the Lambos as well. Abdurrahman, buy one now, said it'll go back down to $600 next month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but I cannot see Bitcoin going back to $600 ever. Right? I do not see it ever going back to $600. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Crescent coin to the moon. Khalid, I love it. Yo, let's do it, bro. Let's start it up. We can do it. Crescent coin value is so low, they have to use scientific notation to look at it. 1 to the 10th power. Earlier in the semester, we said that investing in foreign exchange isn't permissible. IIRC. Do any of the reasons of that prohibition apply to Bitcoin? So, if you were doing like spot trading, right? So you're not doing buying and selling, but you're doing like spot trading of different cryptocurrencies. It won't apply to Bitcoin, but to other cryptocurrencies where you can, what they say, pump and dump, then yes, that prohibition would apply. That prohibition would apply. As soon as you start using leverage, that prohibition will apply, right? So pump and dump schemes and then using leverage, it would apply over there, inshallah. I hate the entire part of the roller coaster. I get it. I get it. How would you pay zakat on Bitcoin if the money in the wallet ends up one day being more than you have in cash? So Bitcoin can actually be sold into fiat currency, right? So on the exchange that you're using, so in Canada, the main one is Index. In the United States, you have Coinbase and you have a couple of others. So those exchanges will give you fiat currency for your cryptocurrency. So whenever you're ready to sell, just like you use your bank app, you can use their app to sell your cryptocurrencies for fiat cash. And then from there, you can transfer it to your bank account. So in the United States, you will use Zelle, you will use Cash App, you can use any of those, and that's how you can pay your zakat. That's how you can pay your zakat. Can you explain the 21 billion limit again? You said it has nowhere to go but up, but how is that possible if there is a limit? So there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence, right? 21 million ever in existence. So Bitcoin, because it is a scarce asset and because it is deflationary, then what that means is that when you're measuring it in a currency that is inflationary, like cash or like the US dollar, then the general trend is that it will always go up. The general trend is that it will always go up. And I'll give you another example of this. So let me see if I can, let's see, go gold. So gold is also considered a scarce asset, right? Like you can't create gold, right? There's no, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have read The Alchemist or not, but at the end, it's the theory that he was able to turn, metal into gold. But that's not the case. That's not the case, right? Okay, so let me share this with you guys, inshallah. Present, and then screen share. So this is the chart of gold in US dollars, right? And remember, US dollar is inflationary, and gold we will consider deflationary. So you can go back. Yes, all the way here. So it goes back. I apologize, my computer is really slow. But if you can look on the screen, and it's going to take a couple of minutes to load. Actually, let's see if I can refresh. That might be better. So it's loading the chart. Is it worth the pain of showing it to you? The point I'm trying to make is I'm giving another example of something that's deflationary in relation to something inflationary. It only has, up to go. So, for example, I want to go back, but I feel it's going to slow down again. But let's just start from 2006. So 2006, the high of gold is $438. Okay. And by 2024, gold has reached 2,356, right? So the general trend is that it's going to go up. So yes, there are periods where it went down, but the general trend is that it is going to go up. And if you actually keep going back, right, you see that gold gets cheaper and cheaper as we go back in US dollars, because in US dollars over time, it will become more expensive. And this is because the US dollar is losing its purchasing power. The US dollar is losing its purchasing power. So if you are able to invest in scarce assets, then that is actually something good. That is actually something good. And then let's bring this back over here. Okay. So yes, if you don't have enough cash to pay your zakat, then yes, you would have to sell your Bitcoin. And then Abdul Rahman is saying some random guy bought 100 Bitcoin in 2009 and used it to buy pizza. Yes, that is correct. I remember that story. SubhanAllah, crazy times, man. Crazy times. And then Qusam is saying, so you can't just calculate your total zakat and pay with cash you have in hand. You have to take it out from Coinbase. I mean, if you have the cash to pay for your zakat, then yes, you can use your cash. But if you don't have enough, then you have to sell your assets to pay your zakat. So, for example, someone's holding gold. A lot of places won't accept gold as zakat anymore, right? They will only accept cash. So you have to sell your gold and then give the cash of zakat. Similarly with Bitcoin, up until organizations start accepting Bitcoin, you will have to sell your Bitcoin and pay your zakat in cash. You'll have to sell your Bitcoin and pay your zakat in cash. طيب. So now I just want to go through with you the next following sections. So next week, inshallah, we'll be speaking about credit cards. We'll be speaking about student loans, and then we're going to be starting the discussion on purchasing a house with a conventional mortgage. So that'll be next week's class. Then the week after that, we will start with murabaha and musharaka, right? So we'll go through all of this. That will be in the second class. And then the last class will be on investing in the stock market. The last class will be investing in the stock market. So those are the three remaining classes that we have left to bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. So I know you guys have been very, very patient, but that is what is remaining of the class, inshallah. So what I would advise is the following for next week, inshallah. if you can please do me a favor, and this might actually be easier if I do it this way. I would like you to, those of you that are students and have questions about loans, about student loans, look up this paper, The Reality of and a Ruling on Student Loans in the United States of America, prepared by Dr. Ma'in Khalid Al-Qudah, right? Look up this paper and prepare any questions you have. For those of you that are past the stage of students and student loans, then what I would like you to do is look up the fatwa of the European Fiqh Council allowing you to take a mortgage, And then also look for the response of Sheikh Salah Hassawi. Sheikh Salah Hassawi is a Egyptian scholar based out of Houston, Texas. He responded to the European Fiqh Council and he said that this fatwa is no longer applicable, and he responded to it. And then prepare your questions with that. So that is what the remaining classes are going to look like, inshallah ta'ala. If you guys have any more questions today, then inshallah you can ask your questions. If not, then inshallah we will call it a day. Okay. So Safiya is saying cryptocurrency is outside banking system and it is said that it is safe and anti-interest. Could you please shed some light on that? So banks generally will do whatever the government says. And if there's ever what they call a raid on the bank, meaning that the banks don't have enough cash on hand to give back people the money that the people have deposited, then there's a raid on the bank, right? So something like that can't happen to cryptocurrency. Like no one actually controls the cryptocurrency. And as long as you have it on yourself and you don't keep it on an exchange, you will always be able to do with your cryptocurrency as you wish. So that is why it is safe. As for it being anti-interest, that's just because you can't make more of Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is anti-interest just due to the fact that you can't make more of it. So that's what it's referring to. Link for the fatwa of the European Fiqh Council. Sure. Give me one moment. That's not it. That's a refutation of it. I need to verify that I'm human. Okay, here we go. So that is the fatwa of the European Fiqh Council. I've shared it there. Sorry, I got lost for a second. Do you have to pay zakat on your assets separately, or do you calculate the total value of assets on everything else and then give zakat on everything? Yes, you pay zakat on everything together. How does the Sheikh's name in Houston is Sheikh Salah Hassawi. He's responded to it. And then if you have the time, for those of you that are interested, inshallah, I will actually share a playlist that is in English. So the fatwa of Sheikh Salah Sawi, if I'm not mistaken, is in Arabic, but I could be wrong. What I will share with you is an English okay. There we go. So this Sheikh, he basically takes the fatwa of Sheikh Salah Sawi and he explains it in English over 5 videos. Over 5 videos. You can watch that there. So please come prepared, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for next week. And I look forward to engaging with all of you. Inshallah, we'll start off with credit cards and if they are permissible or not. And then we can take it from there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan for attending. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in beneficial knowledge and allow us to act upon the knowledge that we have and make our wealth a proof for us and not a proof against us, and allow us to come closer to Allah through our wealth and not allow the wealth to become an impediment between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma ameen. Sallallahu wasallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Take care, all of you, and inshallah I'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.